All right, hello, welcome back to Photoshop. This is week one, part two. Little housekeeping that involves using different computers with your student ID and where you are and what you're doing. For the people at home, this shouldn't affect you much. For the people here, it's going to affect you a lot more. And we are working now with Adobe to get it fixed, hopefully. What that is there's a bunch of stuff that Adobe's talking about. There's generative AI and all these great things in the book, but they're not working on the desktops here at MATC. They work on laptops, and if you're working at home on a different computer with your setup, it all works, but for some reason it's being blocked within the school. I don't know if that makes sense. So we're going to work around it, and I'm going to show, at least for this next section, a couple ways to do photo retouching. You don't have to use generative AI. And for some of the students, like I'll talk through that one assignment that we have that once I find out more information, we can come back. You can still complete it. Hopefully it'll all be good, but I'm going to work with you on it. So we eventually will be doing it. You'll be turning it in no matter what. But we'll figure out the best way to do that for everybody. I hope that makes sense, that we don't understand why this is happening. We're now in talks with Adobe, and they're like, no, it's a different subscription, but we showed them that it's not, and they have something messed up on their side. Now, another thing I just sent out to everybody in this generalization of working and how you work. When you sit down to work, you should kind of work the same way every time. I want to say it's like, don't be sloppy. The more you start to set up your workspace, your design workspace for you, the quicker you can design, the better your designs will be, and all that follows through. So when I work, I have all of my panels set up the same way on every computer I use. Like no matter what, I sit there and I spend time and I move them where I want them, so I know where they are, where I want them, and I'll talk a little bit more about that. But part of this other part is opening the programs you need to use when you need to use them. So what I want you to start doing and get in the habit of is open the Adobe Creative Cloud app is like your first thing. You sit down, you're like, I'm going to work on a project. Open up the Adobe Creative Cloud. The reason you want to do that is it starts to sync everything between your programs. It'll let you know if all of your programs are up to date. And this is what the field work looks like. This is what their app looks like. At my house, I literally have like 3. I only use InDesign, Illustrator, and Photoshop. And so I only have 3 shortcuts. I don't download everything. Oh, and Acrobat as well. I don't download. And if you have your own personal computer that you're using, only download the programs that you need. And for now, first semester, it's Photoshop and Illustrator and InDesign and Adobe, like Adobe Acrobat. Just those 4. If you start downloading all these like Premiere Pro and Adobe Express, XD, you're gonna overload your computer and use up all the memory. So don't do that. Only download what you need. So the great part again is, like I said, like you have this, then it'll tell you if you have updates to your programs, and it'll update them. Oddly, Adobe puts out updates like, I feel like every week or 2 you'll get an update, and so then you'll know like, okay, I have the hottest things, or anything that was broken will be fixed. So that's a great use there. The other one is the fonts. Is if you click up in here, and now this is where it goes a little crazy, because the students, you guys who are using the desktops here, when you click on this F, it'll say you don't have a subscription, which is what we're going to alleviate hopefully within the next week. But anybody else using a laptop or at home, you get this comes up. And these are all the fonts. And you can see, like system fonts, newest to oldest, installed fonts, added fonts. It's great. And then you can browse even more fonts. And this is really helpful. So if you click on this, it'll open up a website. And you can just go to this website. It's fonts.adobe.com. And once you're here, you can just add the family. You find something you like, oh, I'm looking for, a funky font. And I want, this one that looks weird. You just click add family. And it takes a couple minutes. You hit add family. It will then add it into here. And then you just hit install family. And then it's ready to go in your programs. So it's something to get used to. And it's a main system, a main area to use to make sure everything is up to date. Everything's working good. And the other one is I hope to get files working for the students as well. I use files, but we removed it because Adobe at one point said they're removing it. This is extraneous information for you. If you can use it, use it. If you can't, we will try to work on getting that for students as well. Because like I said, at one point, Adobe said they were going to get rid of their file sharing, and they didn't. And now they're talking all about it like it's the greatest thing ever. But just as a note, because when I worked in the industry, and I still do it to this day, when I sit down at my home computer and I'm about to work on something and I turn it on, and I go through, maybe I can show you guys down here on my screen. Here, no, it's not gonna pop up the toolbar for me. I go in and I turn on Photoshop, I turn on Illustrator, I turn on InDesign, Adobe Acrobat, and Creative Cloud. Because generally, when I sit down to work, I'm using all 4 of those, and I just want them on, updated, loaded, and ready to go. And then there's days I don't even use one of the programs. It doesn't matter. I just got in a habit. It's a design habit. It's like a little bit like organizing the apps on your phone, and which apps on your phone will come on when you open your phone or you do a restart. It's a little bit like that. And you go through and you're like, I want that one on, I want that one on, I want that one on. It's exactly the same. And it's just sitting down, coming in, and knowing I'm here to design. This is what I need to have open, and I'm ready to roll. Because you don't want to be then you stumble back and you forget about stuff. It's also a little bit, it's called flow. You might have heard of flow with athletes and stuff like that. So flow is when you get in a mindset and time passes you by. And you have no idea what's going on. The less distractions you have, the easier it is to get into that flow state, and having everything ready, open, and done, that you're not like, oh, now I got to open this, and you're stalling out and you forgot what you're going to do and you moved on and this and this and this happens. So that is some design information, some things to know about students working here compared to at home, compared to laptops, and that we're trying to resolve the issues as fast as we can. So please work with us, be in contact with me, let me know. I know these things will happen, and I know what's going to happen in the grade book. We will work through it. Don't worry about it. This isn't necessarily your fault, but we're going to get you this. You're going to learn these things no matter what. I promise. So, all right. Let's jump into this lesson. It is a fairly quick and easy lesson about photo retouching. Again, Adobe added stuff in this book. We can't quite use it, but I'm going to show you ways around it. The great thing about Photoshop is there's usually quote unquote 100 different ways to do the same thing. So if you can't do it one way, it's easy to figure out how to do it another way. So you can't just seize up and be like, it said to do it one way. When you're working on projects and something happens and it's not working, and it happens all the time because they're computers. They're not the computers are like people, If it ain't working one way, ask it a different way and it'll work. Don't just get stuck doing the same thing over and over. And it's it's supposed to work. I did it 16 times this one way. Well, isn't that they call you crazy if you do that? You keep doing the same thing over and over and over, expecting a different result. Just then try something new, play around. So keep that in mind with a lot of the programs and a lot of the design work we use. Don't let what is supposed to have to happen stall you. Find a way around it. It's all about troubleshooting. I know, like, your ideals are, I know what I want to do in my mind, and if this way doesn't work, I'm going to try a different way. Let's see if that works. Sometimes you discover amazing things by simply doing that. So keep that in mind when we're working. I'm going to show you. So I know I'm going to get notes later on, like, how come it didn't work the way it was you showed in class? I'm like, because I'm showing you a different way than maybe the book is showing you, because we need to work around some situations that are happening. It's all good. So the other thing the book mentions for, and I can't tell you pages, or sort of page like 44. It says opening a file with Adobe Bridge. Adobe Bridge is a kind of like image sorting program. If you're a photographer and you're and you want to do photography, Adobe Bridge is awesome. It's a way to do kind of batch editing, storage, and knowing where photos are, and it's great. As a graphic designer, I don't use Adobe Bridge. I don't do enough with batching of photos or having like photo manipulation across like many items that I need to use Adobe Bridge. Because usually I'm designing and placing a photo in, and it's only like 1 or 2 photos, and I don't need that file system. So I don't use Adobe Bridge, and so I don't teach it. So we're just going to kind of gloss over it. If you want to know Adobe Bridge, you can take a photography Photoshop course, and they'll teach you Bridge. But honestly, in my 30 plus years of designing, and whenever they launched Bridge, I never used it. I did try. I didn't do my old man thing and be like, I don't need to learn something new. I just would like, I'd use it, and it actually became a stumbling block for me in terms of me knowing like where all my files were, how we have to share them in a company, and Adobe Bridge didn't help at all. But for the photography guys, they loved it and they used it. It worked perfectly. So just so you know, I'm not talking about opening a file with Adobe Bridge. Just open it in Photoshop. So skip over that, and that's why. It's a great program for what you need it for. Evaluating photos, they talk about that in here. You should always be working high res. You're graphic designers, no matter what, it should be high res. I shared with you a bunch of places to get higher res photos, or I will be sharing with you. No, I shared with you like pixels and all that stuff. Always work high res. Don't just grab stuff from the internet, and think like, oh, that'll be great. A lot of the stuff on the internet is low res because what it's doing is it's feeding, digitally across, it's going to the moon and back, and it doesn't need to be high res. You're looking at your phone. You know what I mean? It's going to be 1 inch by 1 inch. It doesn't need to be high res. And on websites, it only has to be screen resolution. So it doesn't need to be high res. But as graphic designers, that stuff goes to print. It needs to be high res. So we always work high res. High res is like 300 DPI at size. So if somebody says to you, like the final image, the postcard you're designing is 5x7, then your mind is, my image is 5x7 at 300 DPI that I'm putting in like the background or whatever. So that's what we talk about when we say high res, because we don't want the image to fall apart. We call fall apart is when you start seeing the jagged edges, the pixel edges, even at like a normal distance. And so it shows up like, I'll be able, I don't know like when, but you'll hear from one of the teachers be like, that your image is low res. And it's not simply because of the way you post process it. It's because you found a low res image and it's got jagged lines all the way around it. And that's just not what we do. Everything should be smooth and neat and nice. And so when dealing, with imagery, 200, good, 300, better. 600 would be for something crazy, but I've worked at 600 DPI. But anything kind of less than 200, 150 isn't really going to be that usable, because it also doesn't allow you to like make changes and expand and then go back down in size without it starting to fall apart as well. Because if you take an image and then make it big and then make it small, it ruins it. The computer can't handle like expanding pixels and then recontracting them, and it never looks as good as new. So always start high res. And that's what the beginning of this was all about, with talking about high res and documenting and document dimensions. So let's get into the nitty gritty. Cropping. All right. So there's a crop tool. The crop tool is like two right angles on top of each other, dealt with. It's an instrument that we used to use physically. That's what it looked like. You could set crop and then like proportion it. And we're going to do a ratio up here, and we want it width and height. So when we pull our crop, it stays square. If you can't see the screen, can anybody, hold on. Can everybody else see the screen? You may need to just like log out and log back in. And let me know if it works. All right, but I'm going to keep rolling a bit. But yeah, log out, log in. All right, so we're going to put in the ratio, and they want the ratio. It's 7, and you have to type 7 inches. You can just type 7 inch. And then 7 inch. And then the pixel inch, we want it at 300. And then it's, see this px/in? That's what we want. We don't want the pxcn. That's pixels per centimeter, which is, we just don't. Maybe in the future you'll work with that, but we're not really working with centimeters right now. I'm not going to get into the politics of that. So, all right. Now, we got that set up. Now, here's the weird part. And I always, it's very interesting. We're going to use this straighten, and you're going to do this in the extra assignments. It's a level. It's called a spirit level. That's what it's based on. And what you're going to do is you're going to click on that. And when you come, you can see I got a little icon. It's got a little spirit level and a plus. The plus is where I'm going to start, and I'm going to click and drag. So I'm going to start in this corner, and I want the corner of the image. I don't care about the white around it. I want the image. And so I'm going to click on the image and then drag. And then now I'm dragging around, and I can drag wherever I want, but I want to drag along this top edge, because what the computer is going to do is it's going to take this, and it's going to say to itself, that designer wants this edge actually perfectly level. And so I'm still holding, I'm clicked and dragged. I have not let go. But when I let go, I'm aligned and I'm looking good. Boom. There it is. Straight across now. The computer did it for me. I didn't take the corner and have to futz with it and, be right, and adjust it. I just let the computer do it for me. Now, we want to crop in because we want to lose all the extra stuff, right? We don't need that white bounding box. We don't need the white around it. So because I restrained everything here, when I pull in on a corner, I don't have to touch anything. And I'm just looking. And I'm going to go from corner to corner until there's no white stuff left. And it's called cropping. You may crop out a tiny bit of the image. I don't want you like cropping like that. But if you take like a few pixels off, that's fine. You're just cleaning up the mess. And there we are. And then you can click done. You can click this check marks. You can click done, or you can hit enter or return. Like thousands of ways to do this. You do whatever quickest for you. Just hit done. It was right there. And there's my image. There we go. We got it cropped. Now we're going to correct for color. And what I want is we're going to be using layers. I have all these open, and maybe I want to talk about this a little bit, is you can, within these panels, if you know you're not using some of them, and the computer will remember this, you can just get rid of them. Like, do you want to need swatches? No. Gradients, I don't need that. No. Patterns, I don't need that. No. Like libraries, I don't need that. And you can start to take things out. Channels, you can get rid of channels to have less distraction for your designs, because then you can make that smaller and just say, when I need layers, that comes up. And I have a bigger working artboard. You know, like why have, you know, they have so many of these, like if you do this and this, you have no working space. So you can just reduce the size of that and just know, I'm generally going to kind of like, I know where layers are. I know where my adjustments are. You know, it's easy. It's a new way to work. And you're just like turning them on and off. So if you want more space, if you're on a laptop with a smaller screen and you're always leaning in, one, put it on some books. Get some phone books, some old dictionaries, I don't know, pieces of wood. Raise that computer screen up to your face so you're not leaning over. That's one. You know, and you can have your hand high on the keyboard and your mouse low on the table. Raise it up so you're sitting up straight, and then make as much room for your design as possible by reducing the clutter on the side. Make it yours. This is your design studio, nobody else's. So get rid of the stuff you don't need. So now what we want to do is we want to adjust. So thank you. We want to adjust the color. So we're going to go to adjustments. And we want to click on curves. And right there, curves. All you have to do is click on it. And this pops up. Now what we're going to do is we're going to do a white sample on the girl's shirt. And then we're going to show you what happens in layers and everything. But I'm going to zoom in. Because I want you, and this is open, and all I went to the magnifier glass, and I'm going to zoom in, and I'm going to hit my space bar so I can move this up. Whatever tool I have open, except for type, when you hit the space bar and click and drag, you can move your art around, and you're moving the artboard. It doesn't move the object itself. It's just for you and working, and you can get everything centered where you want. Now, there's three. This is dark, medium, and light. Those three eyedroppers. I'm going to click on the white eyedropper, and I'm going to sample in the lightest part of her shirt and just click once. Now you saw what happened there, right? The whole thing got bright. I'm going to zoom out, and then I'm going to go to layers, and I'm going to show you it created a new layer for me called curves. I can turn it off. I can turn it on, and you can see the difference. Now, the wonderful thing about this, and why we deal with it like this in Photoshop, is we don't want to ruin the original photo, quote unquote, until we need to. I could do this curves directly into the photo, but what it doesn't allow me to do is then backstep later on. Say I was like, oh, this is great, and I made another adjustment, and I'm like, oh, I wish I could go back, and now I didn't. Here I can. I can infinitely adjust this over time. I can change the curves, do whatever I want just by clicking on it, and it brings it back up. So that's why we have it done this way. And it's kind of that idea of like, you don't want to, we never use the eraser in Photoshop, because once you erase something, it's gone forever. So Photoshop is allowing you to like infinitely make changes to a single photo until you feel like you're done. And then you collapse everything and save it out. So that's why we do that. Then we did that. And now we are going to do levels. So it's just the same. I'm going to hit adjustments and go to levels. And then we are going to, yeah.
I don't want to interrupt.
Okay.
Do you have like 5 minutes sometime soon?
Yeah, when it'll be like 11. Okay, cool. Thanks. That was our IT department, and hopefully we have a solve for the situations that we're having. All right, so to go back to what I did, you get adjustments and you hit levels, And then it's going to talk you through into some levels. Now, something I want you guys to start doing when the book says to do this is play. You can do it quick and get it done, or you can play and be like, oh, that's why I'm doing it. So they're like, drag the black slider, this is this far one, to 15. Well, if you type it in or do it to 15, you're like, well, it's negligible. But what if I just crank it? Oh, now I see. It's making the darks darker. Okay, now I know why I move that. Why would I move the middle one? Oh, I want it brighter. I want it, burned up. So you start moving these to see what it does. And then in the future, I need to make an adjustment to this photo. I can move these sliders, and here you get to play around, So don't just if you do what exactly the book says, you're not going to get a ton out of it. But beforehand, just be like, okay, I see what that does. I see what that does. All right, great, great, great. And then you can go in and be like, well, it says 15 for the black tones, 0.90 for mids. And I don't think we do anything to the whites. Yeah. And that should stay at 255. And we're done. And then the layers. So I added 2. I hit it twice. I think this one I delete. Delete. No, not the whole layer deleted. Delete. Yes. All right. So then you can see there's just a mild difference there when I turn that on and off. I can turn that one on and off. And so we can see this is what it originated at. And these are the updates we made to make it more contrasty. The brights are brighter, and it's all great. Now they do ask us to flatten it, which is A-okay. So we'll flatten it. And by flattening it, we're going to take these 3 layers and combine them into one. And all you need to go to this hamburger menu and click on that and go to flatten image. So now that I did that, I can undo it somewhat. I have to go to my history panel, but I've kind of now I'm starting at a new space. All right. Now we talked about some of the problems we're having. People at home, and hopefully the laptops are all fine, but they're like, go and use this special tool. They want you to use the remove tool. Now, if you click on it, it may say need to download the tool. If it allows you to, click OK, and it's going to take a bit. It took, oh God, I don't even know if it happened at my house. Using a laptop at my house, it took forever. Here I did it this morning on this computer, and it was only a couple minutes. But click it, and then when you can go check in Creative Cloud, and you go to your apps, it will tell you I'm downloading the remove tool. Now for those of us, so the remove tool is a funky way to remove stuff. I don't know the best way to say it, but there's another way to do it, and it's just the spot healing brush, and it's just as good. So in the interim, we are going to use the spot healing brush tool, and we're going to remove this line, and we're going to remove some other things, and I'm going to show you how in depth you can go. And this is just all about having fun. So I'm going to increase my brush size to 40. I want it bigger than this stripe, right? See that? I'll zoom in on that. See this crease? We want to get rid of this crease. And so when I'm on that brush tool, and then I like to soften it. So the best way to think about zero hardness is it's going to have a nice feathered edge. If I have it at 100, it's going to be a crisp edge. So that circle will have a crisp edge. I don't want a crisp edge. I want it to blend a little bit. You can even just do 50. Again, this is, a little bit beyond what they're teaching you in the book, but this is a lot of fun. So what you're going to do is then you're going to click and drag. And you kind of want to be as good as you can at that and get right over it. And when I let go, it disappears. It's amazing. Love it. And then oh, there's a dot there. I can just click on that dot. I don't want that. And you just go through, and anything that shouldn't be there, you can click on. And now I put my finger, I have that spot, that healing tool on, and I put down the space bar and I grab and I move and I see a dot there and a dot here and a dot here. And you just kind of go and you go through the whole photo. And you're going to get rid of this crease. Get rid of these dots. I'm going to go over here. They tell you to get rid of this hair. And I want you to go through and like continue to just get rid of stuff. You can get rid of the crease down here. Look at that magic, hey? And go through. Have some fun. Remove that crease. I'm kind of going a little bit, but go throughout the photo. And you're going to have like 5 photos that you need to do this with. And you can make that brush bigger, smaller. You go and just kind of circle things. And for the extra assignment, it's basically straightening, recropping, and like adjusting the levels. You can adjust curves and levels, get the photo to look better, and then clean it up. You're going to do the best you can. I got like a really hard photo in there. It's super hard. Do what you can. Now, along with this is we want to remove the kid. And again, they're telling us to use generative fill. We can't. This guy is not part of the family. He's somebody else's. So what we're going to do is we can use the patch tool. And it's a little bit funky. And then once you use the patch tool, you come back and you can use the spot healing tool again. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to circle him. By clicking and dragging, I'm going to circle him. All right. And I just drew a circle around him. Now, when I put the tool on top of him, a little arrow pops up. And if I click and drag, I can get the area around it to fill back in. And now the other thing I'm doing is I see repeats, right? You guys all see the repeats in here? We're going to get rid of it. That's what the spot healing brush tool is for. So no worries. But what you want to do is you don't want to do it like that. See how it's misaligned? When we do this stuff, you want precision. Photoshop is about tricking people to not knowing that you did Photoshop on it. So here I got it, and I'm let go. And I let go and it slipped, but that's fine. And then I can go and deselect, which is select, deselect, or Command D. Learn to use that. You use it a lot. Just use the keyboard. Kapow, kapow. Now I can go back to that brush, healing brush to spot healing, and just be like, I don't want that there. This is a duplicate. And we go in and we just kind of start, working it, getting rid of stuff. The other one we can use, and I really love, and this is the clone stamp tool. This is above and beyond. I'm just teaching us some new things. You can take parts from one area and move them to another. So see these buildings right here? If you have to hold down the Option key, and it gives me that little marker. You see that? It's like a pinpoint. When you look through a scope in a gun, what do you call that? A sight? That means like when I click here, it's going to sample from there. And if you look at my floating thing up here, and it's taking it down here, and I'll do this just for fun. I can add, if I just hold down and start scrubbing, it's putting everything up there down here. Or because I can put everything from over there. Well, I have the reset, and then I can match this and then kind of like add more windows. So that's another really rad tool, is the clone stamp tool. Again, try things out. play around, and then you can undo. You just go and undo a bunch of stuff. You don't like what you did? Undo it. Command Z. Have fun, play around. That's how, if you can use the generative fill to remove the boy, go for it. This was hilarious. I want to see if it works. So I was like, oh yeah, and I was trying it out, and I was like, I'll use it. Let's do it. So I just did the lasso tool, and I went around him, and I'm not kidding. I hope it does it, because one time it worked and one time it didn't. And sometimes if you just use the generative fill in general, you don't have to, like, you click on it and is it what would you like to do? If you do nothing, it kind of knows you're just filling the background. But I did it. Okay, I'm clicking over here. I have to agree. And I'm not kidding you. It put in an old lady instead. Some mysterious old lady. Oh, here it did it fine. So here it did it good. I am not kidding. And I was like, this is the worst. Because then I had to redo it twice for it to give me the background. And it does a good job. Like, this is meant, I would adjust some things. As you can see, the bricks are out of order. And you can go in and fix the bricks. You know, like, see how there's that jump there? And I would go and then you probably clone stamp that, or I'd use, one of the tools that we talked about. Again, play around. Oh, okay, I have to do that. Okay. Because it's in layers and I have to now. I liked it, and then I can flatten that. Go to flatten. So it brings that in, and then I can get rid of that. Boom. So always check your layers. So go for it. Try it if you can. So this is, oh, and then we're going to sharpen the image, flatten the image, then go to filter, sharpen, smart sharpen, filter, sharpen, smart sharpen, and then you're going to adjust as it says. What do we want? Drag the amount of sharpening slider to about 100. So that's high, so we want about 100. And the radius slider to 3. I don't really do a lot of this work in my photos, and you can kind of see what's happening. It's worth knowing how to do it. It's cool. Now, in my assignment, as one of the modifiers, and just so you know, you may have to reopen this file, because I say, that boy you removed, put him somewhere else. So what you're going to have to do is go to File, like you save this, go to File, Save As. There's going to be two things. This gets tricky now. You can save it as the name or PSD. And then I'm going to go to File, Open. There's two things I'm having you do. I'm going to open up that Start TIFF again. And just, for fun, now you know what you did, and you can adjust this image. But I'm going to use this lasso tool, and I'm going to go around him, and you're going to clean him up too. You can do this way better. And this is one area where you'll use an erase tool. And I'm going to copy, and I'm going to paste. And then you can move him up here, and you can go around him, and you can use, this is the one place to use an erase tool, and then you kind of like erase around him, and you can work the hardness with a little softer, and you're going to cut him out, and you can place him anywhere you want, up on buildings. If you put him back there, you're going to shrink him down. He's going to be small. And then the other thing, this girl, she needs a twin. It's from The Shining. So you're going to cut her out. Again, using the lasso tool. There's many tools you can use. However you want to do it. Clean it up and put her, someplace else. You can just be really creepy and just have her next to herself. So those are the two extras that I want you to do for this assignment. It's copying and pasting. It's learning layers. It's starting to understand how I build on those, you know, this layer to this layer to this layer. Does the book show you how to copy and paste? No, I showed you. I don't want to, like, you can always re-ask me, and I'll just say, like, you can circle it and then clean it up. Use, you know, the erase tool, use this tool on separate layers, get it nice, get it really cool looking. YouTube has great tutorials, and you can literally type in what you need in YouTube, and you'll get like a 3-minute video on how to do this effect or that effect, like how to duplicate something in Photoshop. Just if you need to, Google that, and you will get awesome. I do it to this day. I'm not kidding you. Like, it's not something that, like, I know everything. There's times I'm out there, I'm like, oh, I totally want to know how to do this. And I go and I type into YouTube, like, how do I get this effect? And I, you know, quickly watch it. I'm like, all right, perfect. That's what I wanted to know how to do. I was doing something this summer for our last summer. You know, we had that eclipse this year, and I had to do my son's yearbook, and I needed to make the eclipse effect with their logo. I went online. How do you make an eclipse, you know, effect? And it helped me out, and I was able to do it super quick. So use the resources available to you to help you get what you need to get done. For the extra project in here, like I said, all it is, I gave you 5 photos. Oh, and the Odyssey one. All right, now I gotta hurry up. The matching project is there's 5 photos to download. Clean them up as much as you can. Again, it's a lot of just spot healing, adjust, and spot healing. Now let's get to this. You're gonna start working on a project, and you need to gather assets. And this is just gonna be, overall, we're gonna work on this over like 3 weeks, 2 weeks, 2 weeks. And today you're gonna gather the parts and pieces in order to make a quote unquote like Photoshop collage. All right. But I'm gonna be very specific in what you need to get. And I want you to gather your images in 2 ways. Make a folder that you know where everything is. And then you're gonna place all of this into a, I don't care if you use Google Slides, I don't care if you use PowerPoint. I just need to see all the images. And so what do I mean by that is, like, you're just going to create a very simple document that has, you know, here's the name of the assignment. I want a flying insect. Give yourself some choices, you know, of a flying insect. How do I do that? Let's show you. I'm going to go to pexel.com, and I'm going to type in flying insects. And I'm going to look for one. I want the insect. You're going to want it with, you know, the least amount of schmutz and background near it. Like if you do like this bee, this may work, but it's pretty weird around it. Look for stuff that you're like, I can cut that. I might be able to cut that out easily and get it how I want it. Don't click on the sponsored stuff. But you can type in the name of the insect, and you're just going to go down and you're going to find 1, 2, but you need a minimum. A flying insect, a flying bird, a flying craft. They're going to be anything. I was trying to be kind of funny with that. Like, what do you mean by craft? Well, if you want to put in a UFO, go for it. I don't care. 3 fish, an astronaut in space. Now, if you run into problems and say an astronaut in space doesn't come up on here, or if you spell it wrong, I don't know if I spelled it right. Oh, look at that. Ding, ding, ding. We got him. Never mind. Then I want an underwater scene and a mountain scene. So all you're going to do is get all of these. You're going to make sure you save them to your computer so you have them. And when you start bringing them into Photoshop, you can start playing around. But we're not doing that. All you need to do is gather them into a document that's labeled and then export that as needed. if you've never worked with PowerPoint or Google Slides and you need some help, please just ask. You get free Google Slides with MATC. It's under these dots here. If I click here, and in mine, I have to go to Drive. I have the slides off, but here it is, Slides. And you just click on that, blank presentation, and then you can just add, and then you add slides to it, and you can just, for adding your images, you insert an image from your computer, which you'll have already downloaded, and you just, click the name and kind of follow along. So if you have questions about that, I know it's a little bit, maybe not everybody's ever made a little presentation, but I just need you to know that you need to have all these parts gathered, and you need to know where they are. You need to save them somewhere that you can travel with. Again, if you're working only here, Google, it's not in the slide, I want to go back. Just Google Drive is where you save everything. You can make folders, and you can access this from anywhere in the world. I'm not kidding you. Like all your files right here for free from MATC. You have a ton of storage. And then you could be in Japan and be like, I got to work on my assignment, and all your files are right there for you. Easy to access. So with that, any questions, comments, or concerns as of now? And I'm around, you know that. So, all right. Well, I'm around, and yeah, feel free. Come on back. Let me know. Let me know what you got. I'm hopefully going to find out what's going on with the computers, and yeah. Otherwise, I'll see you on Tuesday. But feel free, reach out to me with anything you need. All right. Talk to you.